Zelensky fires Ukraine's military chief in major shakeup nearly 2 years into war. President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced the dismissal of Ukraine's top commander, General Valery Zelensky, in the biggest military shakeup since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion almost 2 years ago. The president's move follows tensions between Zelensky and his hugely popular military chief, after the failure of Ukraine's much-vaunted counteroffensive, and with Ukraine facing a renewed Russian onslaught, manpower and ammunition shortages, and U.S. aid stalled in Congress. In a Telegram post sent shortly before the formal announcement, Zelensky said he held a meeting with Zelensky and discussed what kind of renewal the armed forces of Ukraine need. "The time for such a renewal is now," Zelensky wrote. Zelensky's replacement will be Oleksandr Syrsky, who since 2019 has served as the commander of Ukrainian land forces. Zelensky wrote on his Telegram channel on Thursday that the tasks of 2022 are different from those of 2024. Therefore, everyone must change and adapt to the new realities as well. "We have just met with the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. It was an important and serious conversation. It was decided that we need to change our approaches and strategy." Rumors of Zelensky's dismissal began to swirl around Kyiv last week, after he was called to a meeting at the president's office and told he was being fired, two sources familiar with the matter told CNN. Zelensky's office initially denied the rumors, but the move was confirmed on Thursday. Zelensky, who had been appointed army chief by Zelensky in July 2021, was offered a new position by the president, which he turned down, according to one of the sources. It remains unclear whether Zelensky has decided to remain involved with the military in some capacity. Differences between the two men had been simmering for many months, but appeared to grow wider towards the end of last year, after Zelensky said the war had reached a stalemate in a long essay and interview in The Economist magazine in November. Writing after Ukraine's counteroffensive was mostly rebuffed by heavily fortified Russian defenses, he warned that without a great technological leap forward, there will most likely be no deep and beautiful breakthrough, but instead an equilibrium of devastating losses and destruction. His remarks drew immediate criticism from Zelensky's office, which said such commentary about the war only benefited Russia. More recently, the two leaders clashed over whether Ukraine needed a mass mobilization effort. The army chief had suggested up to 500,000 draftees were required, which Zelensky resisted. The president told a press conference in December mobilization was a highly sensitive issue and that he wanted to hear more arguments in favor before he felt fully ready to back the move. "This is a very serious number," Zelensky said. "It is a question about people, about justice, about defense capabilities. It is also a financial question." Last week, as rumors mounted, Zelensky made clear his frustrations over the issue, referring to the inability of state institutions in Ukraine to improve the manpower levels of our armed forces without the use of unpopular measures. The remarks were highly unusual for a man generally reluctant to speak publicly. A political gamble for Zelensky. When Russia launched its invasion in February 2022, many of Ukraine's allies feared Kyiv would fall in just a few days, and the rest of the country within weeks. But Ukraine's troops, under Zelensky's direction, were able to drive Moscow's forces from the capital, and later in the year managed to reclaim large parts of the southern and eastern territories occupied by Russia in the early weeks of the war. Ukraine had hoped to drive Moscow's forces back further in 2023, but battlefield success proved elusive. Launched last June, Ukraine's counteroffensive in particular aimed to push south towards the Sea of Azov, splitting Russia's forces in two and cutting its land bridge to Crimea. A political gamble for Zelensky. When Russia launched its invasion in February 2022, many of Ukraine's allies feared Kyiv would fall in just a few days, and the rest of the country within weeks. But Ukraine's troops, under Zelensky's direction, were able to drive Moscow's forces from the capital, and later in the year managed to reclaim large parts of the southern and eastern territories occupied by Russia in the early weeks of the war. Ukraine had hoped to drive Moscow's forces back further in 2023, but battlefield success proved elusive. Launched last June, Ukraine's counteroffensive in particular aimed to push south towards the Sea of Azov, splitting Russia's forces in two and cutting its land bridge to Crimea.